HistoryBoiz. I'm Tyler Armentrout. I'm a history boy at heart, but also a history boy in motion.
Oh, there you go.
And I'm sitting next to Christopher Whedon.
Yeah,
You say it.
I am a history boy who is called Christopher Whedon, and I am a history boy in my pants.
In your personal life.
My personal life,
Yeah.
and on the show. But I'm not supposed to talk about it.
Outside of the show, you know so much.
No, yeah, not at all. I don't know where I was going with
And
that.
who are you sitting next to?
I don't know.
Hi there, neighbor. I just moved into the area. My name is Zach Meck. I'm a history boy, and I am federally bound to let you know that I now live here
Oh,
for reasons.
8-year-olds, dude.
Yeah, Scotch. 8-year-old Scotch is what we're talking about. Yeah.
Best thing about 8-year-old Scotch is you have eight bottles of it. It's year old.
8-year-old Scotch.
8-year-old.
What's the best thing about 8-year-old Scotch?
You have
Eight of them.
Yeah, thank you.
And I am Jerry Nash, a history boy, as always. Thank you for listening. And here we are with another story for you.
Cool.
What is the story, Jerry? Tell us the story.
Tell us,
Yeah.
Papa.
It's getting cold in here.
Ooh, it's going to be a cold one.
We're back on the ice, aren't we?
No, not on the ice.
In the ice.
We're in the ice.
in the snow.
Oh, yay.
This is the blizzard of 1888.
Oh, boy.
This is where the background for "Baby It's Cold Outside" came from. Correct?
No?
It's cold outside.
Baby, it's cold outside. There's a blizzard.
Well, that song was inspired by the fact that he left a baby in the snow and said, "Baby, it's cold outside, gotta go." And he left that baby in the snow.
Like that episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah.
That was a child, not a baby.
Yeah.
Well, you'll see a lot of that in this episode.
Wah, wah. Let's warm you up for a bummer.
Glad we're rocking a feel good.
Warm me up before we cool you down.
So the Midwestern/Western states/territories had seen blizzards before, but none would compare to what they experienced in 1888.
They need some of that global warming.
Oh, yeah.
The blizzard came without any warning, as meteorology was in its infancy, communication lines didn't really reach everywhere, and the ineptitude of the U.S. Army's Signal Corps, which tried to predict the national weather at the time. And they were the ones that kind of they were the ones that tried to predict the weather.
Yeah, they were like, I saw
Clouds are coming.
I saw
gonna get
2
dark.
ravens and a goat, so I think it's gonna be fine.
Dale, climb up that.
It's a little bit more than
I saw
What do you see up there? Huh?
I saw a couple of coyotes going east. I think we're in for a blizzard.
Well, there was still sort of like the red sky in the morning.
Yeah, I know that.
It's like, I
that
don't
they
know what
weren't
that
actually
means.
Doing this,
Yeah.
but
We're doing better now, guys.
they saw a couple fire trucks and were like, "We're in real trouble tonight."
Because fire trucks won't exist for like another 30 years.
Yeah, it was weird.
They had fire trucks, just not the fire trucks we have now.
No, I
There-
mean
it
like
was
a
like a-
modern fire truck.
It's like a rickshaw with a guy with a mouthful of water.
And a guy sees him.
And we called that the fire engine.
I was gonna make a joke about time traveling fire engines, but it has nothing on that, so I'm gonna move along.
So it was called the Great Blizzard, the Great White Hurricane, the Schoolhouse Blizzard, and the Children's Blizzard. It was known as these things. We'll get to kind of why it was called this.
As we
And
go
the
down the
school
list,
rack.
it gets more. At first, I was like, "This just sounds like I don't know, a rockumentary's cocaine part." And once you're like the children's blizzard, I'm like, "Oh no!"
Oh yeah, the Great
Yeah.
White Hurricane, baby.
Yeah.
It's not a Motley Crue story,
Yeah.
no.
See,
As much as Zach, as much as Zach wanted that, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Def Leppard
I
signed
expected
their
this to be
contract.
on the LA Strip, you know. And it's like,
It's
all the
snowing tonight in the green room, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, in the Viper Room.
Oh, there you go.
no. It's all about the rainbow, and then you go up to the vampire club.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
And you see River Phoenix, and you go, "See you around, man." You give him a high five. He's like, "I'll be here tomorrow." And you're like, "No, no.
Yeah, and
Just
then,
did some speedballs with Lance Daly."
yeah, and then the screen goes gray. Grayscale, and
It
it
zooms
turns-
out backwards from the SD TV.
Yeah, and then you see River Phoenix tragically lost his life, and he's gonna be played by that kid from Cobra Kai.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, the one that looks like
It looks like River Phoenix. I kept talking to Danny about how much of a dreamboat he was, and she was like, "Yeah, I see his green eyes, Chris. Stop bringing him up." I'm like, "He's dreamy."
Yeah.
Let's talk about that now.
Welcome to the Cobra Kai cast.
We're talking about Chris's sexual awakening.
Well, Sexual Awakening 2. First one was Tifa Lockhart.
Now, it was referred to as the Children's Blizzard or the Schoolhouse Blizzard because most of the blizzard's uncountable hundreds of victims were mainly children.
Brutal.
Yeah, and it was one of the most severe blizzards in recorded American history.
Question. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a lost episode of Schoolhouse Rock talking about the Children's Blizzard?
Well, I will say that after this, being caught in a blizzard was a intrinsic fear that people had in America at the time.
So you're saying like the cartoon kids would be like, "It's getting cold and I'll never get old.
Exactly.
I'm just gonna take a nap."
Precisely.
Yeah, I'm a new father, guys.
I was just gonna say something about I'm just a blizzard on Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
You know? It wasn't as funny as that, so we'll cut that out.
It's up to you.
Cut his out so mine looks better.
Yeah.
There you go.
So in 1862, the Homestead Act granted adult heads of household 160 acres of surveyed public land for a minimal filing fee, provided that they stay and live on that land for 5 years. It's yours free,
Plus,
free
it was
and clear.
haunted.
It's free and clear. You get 160 acres. You live there 5 years.
That's not a bad deal.
Well, it's a challenge.
Is it on an Indian burial ground?
All of the United States.
It's all cursed. Now, the obvious catch being that if anything should happen to you while on the frontier, no one was there to help you. And you're kind of SOL. You're there making a go for it on your own, completely on your own.
But the people
Yeah.
at the time were more self-reliant. You'd think they'd be prepared.
Yeah, they didn't even have very good Wi-Fi back then.
Yeah.
Well, the fact you have to do everything yourself. So literally everything yourself. Think about that.
Like restart the router, you know.
Turn it
You
off.
gotta
turn it
dig
back
your
on.
own well. You gotta build a house. You gotta sow your own field. You gotta grow your own food.
You gotta pump your own septic.
Yeah.
There's no septic.
Dig the
no.
graves of the
You got-
children.
You gotta dig your own.
Because half of them didn't
Outhouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Half of the kids didn't live past 12.
And you gotta fish the snakes out. 'Cause
Just
they'll
in
get you.
general, and this is without the blizzard.
Right. Got to drive your own Uber Eats.
Oh, no.
You gotta go to the restaurant to get the food.
Still, many brave and foolhardy pioneers took on that challenge and poured into the American West. They were a lot of immigrants who wanted a better legacy for their children than what they had back in their home countries. So basically what was going on in Europe is that farms were familial, but once, you had several kids and whatnot, there's no way you were going to have a farm or anything.
Yeah.
So the land was sort of all accounted for.
Okay.
But when they heard that if you went to America, you could have 160 acres if you could just stay there 5 years.
Yeah, just take it from the Native Americans.
Yeah, right. Then they signed up.
It's free real estate.
Well, the railroads. Yeah.
It's free real estate.
Yeah. Well, the railroads pushed out all this propaganda into Europe that was like, come to the Great Plains, the Great Prairies, the American West. The sun shines all the time and the rain follows the plow. It's a paradise. You're going to have a great time.
There's literally no night. The sun is oppressive.
Well, yeah. And
It's a regular Tatooine. if you
Yeah.
will.
yeah. And at that time, you got to cross the ocean first. People died on that trip.
It was a cruise.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And
They all got food poisoning.
then
From
yeah.
the buffet.
Yeah.
And once you got there,
Shrimp cocktail.
there are natives that are already there, and the weather is hostile, right? And you didn't know this going into it. You thought it was going to be dope.
Yeah. For our listeners that live on the coast, the Midwest is that'd be the plains.
Yes.
Yeah.
The prairies.
Is very cold in the winter, very hot in the summer, very humid in the summer, and I don't recommend it to anyone.
Yeah.
So
Get out.
get out of Iowa, you guys. It's the one that I have the most experience with.
Chicago is my most experience, and my God, that Chicago winter.
I've been to the Chicago airport. That's the closest I've been.
You're like, give me that inner city I hear so much about, because this weather is oppressive.
Now, there were also ambitious businessmen that were capitalizing on the railroad stops, and they were there basically to build the cities of the West. You know, like anytime the railroad stopped, cities popped up around it, right? And they were there to sort of capitalize on that and build like the towns in the West that would eventually become like Minneapolis, St. Paul, and things like that.
South Dakota will be a metropolis.
Yeah, that's what everyone thought.
Right off the choo-choo.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm Mr. Moneyfeller.
They thought,
My name is Pierre Moneyfeller.
Yeah.
yeah.
I got gold shoes.
We're building our first Arby's.
Yeah.
And a lot of
It was a
people...
top hat in those days.
An all blacks establishment. And I don't mean that in a race sort of connotation, but you need to be wearing your best tuxedo.
Yeah, it's black tie.
Black tie.
Also, they didn't let black people in there.
Arby's.
And there were also people just looking for a hard reset on their life. And on the prairies and in Dakota Territory, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, they would find more than what they bargained for. Because this is rough life, guys. Again, you have to do everything yourself. And if anything should happen, well, that's too goddamn bad.
You know, sometimes it's worth it having a new start after you cause an accident at the old factory and somebody gets smushed and you have to get out of town. Pancake some guy.
Yeah, pancake some guy in a steamroller.
Yeah.
Regular Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
Pioneers made the arduous crossing and covered wagons into this hostile and wild land, many of whom who just months before made the long voyage over the ocean from Norway, Sweden, and Ukraine.
Sweden.
Yeah.
Ukraine?
Yeah. Tacoma.
When they got to where they were going, to Homestead, they surveyed their 160 acres and they staked it off. That's where like the term comes, like pulling up stakes.
Yes.
Yeah,
You stake
okay.
your claim.
You stake your claim. Yeah, you stake it all
It was
off.
my land. It's staked off.
This your land, right?
You didn't see those fucking stakes?
Well, sometimes
They
you
were
build
T-bones.
fences,
Yeah.
but
T-bones are fine.
only people with like some means
More of a
built
ribeye guy.
fences.
Same.
People with some meats?
Means
Oh.
built fences.
He's
I got money for all these fences. I put in the stakes.
talking about tenderloins over here, so.
Yeah. This guy's talking about God knows what. Tenderloins.
So the stakes were raised, one might say.
Put down.
Oh.
You only pulled up stakes if you want to leave.
But I thought they raised the stakes because of the harsh winters.
Oh, they raised the stakes to get there, and then they put down the stakes to stay.
Once
and
they
if
got
you were
there.
leaving, you pulled up stakes.
Well, you know...
Jerry did it again.
Yes. You got to know when to hold them.
You know when to fold them.
No one to put down stakes. And no one to, skip town after you had pancaked that guy in the factory.
Now, once you got there, though, you had to set to work quickly on building your own house for you and your family, where materials could be scarce.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jerry, where did they find trees in the prairie?
Most of their houses were sod houses.
Oh, made out of dirt?
Dirt. There were usually one, maybe two room sod houses with sod roofs. It was dirt floors, dirt everything, pretty much. They lived in dirt houses in the middle of
great.
goddamn nowhere.
Cool.
And like snakes would crawl through your walls,
Yeah.
and like bugs would be in there. It was rough living, And it pretty much at the same time you got to plant because you're gonna need food,
Yeah. Makes you want to go back to the city and face the music for that time you pancake that guy.
Yeah. It's like prison would be better than this.
I mean, I don't know. The fact that your walls and your floor is essentially a refrigerator, like it's a pantry for you. There's so many delicacies there.
I thought you were going to say that your walls are like a metal album with like snakes and bugs crawling out of it. And you're
No,
like,
I was
brutal.
thinking of more like, all right, got snakes.
Snakes for dinner.
Snake sandwich again. Here we go.
Snakes back on the menu, boys.
sandwich.
I don't think anyone's ever had a snake sandwich.
That is absolutely not true.
You have not had.
Is the bread also snakes?
Yes.
Yeah, duh.
It's just snakes.
Oh, God. That's
Well,
disgusting.
and if you think about the materials, not a ton of wood, right? So you'd have to go sometimes really far to get coal to heat your house.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't afford coal, which many couldn't, or if you didn't have wood, you resorted to burning hay. And it burns way too fast.
Yeah,
and you have
that's
to
kindling.
twist it. You have to twist it into like knots to make it burn longer.
Good for the lungs.
But it, oh God, no. But it it's what really poor people used to heat their home, and it was not. It was just not good enough.
AOC's freaking out on Twitter right now because of what you just said.
So, like, all joking aside, I'm honestly surprised that their houses, they didn't also use, like, any manure or anything like that so that it would trap the heat more.
Yeah, the burning cow pie situation of the frontiersmen.
They would burn chips, but the thing is burning cow chips might be okay for outside campfires. Not great for inside campfires. Your whole house smells like burning shit. So they would, they would use it, don't get me wrong, but they would have to supplement it with other things too.
Interesting.
Not your first choice.
But sod does grow together.
Right.
So it does form a pretty decent insulation.
like a seal.
But yeah, I mean, snakes live in it.
Right,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
sure.
So, like, you wake up in the morning with snakes all over you.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
No,
Hey, free snakes. So.
I was just curious more along the lines of, like, trying to weatherproof at home.
Yeah, sod was the best way.
Come to the American prairie. Live in snakes.
Yeah. Now, weather was the primary factor of whether or not these settlers would live or die. It was so linked to their everyday life. You know what I mean? If there was a drought, it could kill you. If there was a flood, it could kill you. If there was a prairie fire, it could kill you and or destroy everything you have.
Oh, Jesus.
So, like, and prairie fires, across flat surfaces, the fire just raged, and there was no way to put it out. You know what I mean? And if your house or whatever was in the way, good luck to you, because who
It's
knows?
made out of sod.
Yeah, who knows if
Right.
it's still going to be there after it's done.
My house is screaming. It's just the snakes.
They were the friends that we made along the way.
And think about it, like, you killed yourself to make this house. It took so long. It took everything you had to make this house, and there it goes.
Well, you made it out of filth, so.
It's all that was there. And it seemed like everything just wanted to fucking destroy you out there, But among the most feared natural disasters in the West was the blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a blizzard is defined as a severe snowstorm characterized by strong, sustaining winds of at least 35 miles per hour, typically lasting for 3 hours or more, causing a reduced visibility to at least a quarter mile, 400 meters, or less.
Dairy Queen, you lied to us. You didn't say anything about Oreo 1 in that.
No, I did not.
The real problem was how many calories it is.
That's the killer.
The silent killer.
Yeah. Now, with something being a blizzard, it doesn't really have a lot to do with the amount of snow. It has more to do with the strength of the wind. And yeah, the wind sometimes brought about like whiteout conditions, where everything in the horizon and everything looked the same and indistinguishable. So you can't even really tell where you are.
You don't know what's what.
Yeah, you're snowblind. Like Slash in the Viper Room.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, you would think that the Scandinavians would feel most at home in that sort of environment, but, that's just me.
It's not quite the same.
They're
Not
used
quite
to
the
having
same.
trees.
Yeah. Well,
And fjords.
yeah, and
They're pining for the fjords.
yeah, blizzard's a little different. And in Antarctica, this just kind of puts it into perspective, because the bottom end, in order for it to be a blizzard, is 35 mile an hour winds, right? In Antarctica, blizzards have been recorded with winds over 99 miles per hour.
Oh boy.
Poor
So, yeah.
Shackleton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sitting in a canvas tent.
There goes my sock. It's an ice cube now.
Yeah.
But if
That
you
was
really
the cum
want
sock,
to
too.
run away from the things you did in your past, Antarctica is probably not a bad place to go.
Yeah.
They're not going to find you down there.
No. 0 cases of COVID, by the way. Now, a severe blizzard, especially in a place that is rare to get a lot of snow, can paralyze the region for days at a time, freezing all transportation, and in the 1880s, all communication as well. Blizzards have been known to create giant snowdrifts on anything that stops the wind, covering trains, haystacks, barns, and second-floor windows. In 1829, the blizzard was referred to as a, quote, violent blow.
Nice.
but was given its modern term blizzard by 1859 and used regularly to describe harsh winters of the 1880s.
Because that other term ended up meaning when you were using too many teeth.
I mean, we were just talking about Pornhub videos before we were recording, and I think I've seen a couple violent blow videos.
You know?
Yowie, yowie, yowie. That's what you do. You jump out of your seat and your legs kick. When you get too many teeth, like a cartoon man.
And then you push down a
Yosemite
TNT
Sam.
plunger.
Yeah, you push down a TNT plunger and you blow up the Roadrunner.
Now, the blizzard that would ravage the west of Montana to Texas, so it went from Montana all the way down into Texas, it was caused by a massive Arctic front it was basically coming from the north into the south, and a massive wet warm front coming north from the Gulf of Mexico. I'm not really going to get into the particulars of meteorology because every time they talked about this in the book, my eyes just kind of glazed over. I was like, I don't know what all this means.
Jerry, you're not a meteorology boy?
I'm not, no.
It's the Meteorology Boys.
Podcast. We talk about weather patterns.
We talk about high pressure systems. We talk about low pressure systems.
Yeah.
We talk about chance of precipitation.
So what happens is that wet air from the south collides with that cold air and makes snow, right? That's basically what it is. There's certain things that make it a blizzard, that make it special and make it a blizzard, but I'm not really going to go into that.
They got zapped. That's the long story short. Hot, cold, zippity zop. They got zapped.
They got the blizz.
Yeah.
Oh, they got the blizz all right.
There we go.
They got the blue box blues big time.
Now, this particular blizzard would be large enough to span states and strike quickly and without any warning. Those that were caught in it as it struck were already too late. It hit fast, and it hit with its full force, like almost immediately.
Frozen solid. Ice Cube people, ladies and gentlemen.
So in a blizzard, snow is more like small ice particles that are being blown across the landscape extremely violently. And these ice particles make it almost impossible to see, sometimes freezing your eyelids shut, but it also chokes you as well, rushing into your nose and mouth if you open it.
Whoa.
And it plugs your ears too, like it just gets everywhere. It's constantly...
It's like sand.
Yeah, it's like being in a dust storm. It shoots up your nose and down your throat.
Gets into everything.
Yeah.
It's coarse, it's rough.
Yeah.
It gets everywhere.
It's everywhere.
And the loud howling of the wind makes it even more impossible to hear anything else.
It's like Mother Nature screaming at you while it's holding you down and just fucking your face with ice.
Yeah.
It's Mother Nature's orgasm. That's what's happening.
That's why they called it a violent blow.
Nice. Now, many attribute the harsh winters in the northern hemisphere of the 1880s to a volcanic eruption of Krakatoa in Indonesia in 1883. The explosion was so powerful that it's thought that anyone that was in a 10-mile radius would have gone deaf.
Oh boy.
And it was actually heard as far away as Australia, which was nearly 2,000 miles away.
And they were like, crikey. And they went about their day.
Now, the eruption destroyed the original island of Krakatoa. It's actually now 3 or 4 islands, I believe.
More like crikey toa.
God damn it.
And some sources put the estimated death toll of the actual explosion at more than 120,000 people.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there are numerous documented reports of groups of human skeletons floating across the Indian Ocean on rafts of volcanic pumice and washing up on the east coast of Africa up to a year after the eruption.
That's
wow.
so fucking metal.
Why aren't we doing the episode
nuts.
on that?
Yeah, seriously.
It's the early morning skeleton tide. Time to make breakfast.
Yeah.
Now, the plumes of ash that were propelled 260,000 feet into the air caused summer temperatures in the northern hemisphere to be much lower and winter cold fronts to be, consequently, colder and more vicious.
So a volcano made the blizzard worse?
Basically. It made the blizzard possible in a
Jerry,
way.
that doesn't make any goddamn sense. Volcano's hot.
The world's so big, though.
ash.
How does that matter, Jerry?
If we have
Can
global
you hear my
warming,
silence?
Nothing's connected.
Sure would be nice to have some global warming with all this snow. Right?
Right.
Our president said something along those lines.
Yeah. In the early days of January 1888, the West had seen snowfall and freezing temperatures, but that was to be expected for that time of year. However, on January 11th, 1888, the temperature had actually risen 20 to 40 degrees from where it was in most places, which was relatively balmy considering the weather's just a day before. So all of a sudden it got really warm.
And everyone's like, put on your shorts.
Pretty much. I mean, they weren't wearing their big heavy winter stuff that day.
Oh, there's it. So it was like this big warm front before the.
Yep.
Slight tangent. There was this like hurricane that hit like Ireland a while ago, a few years, like more than a few years ago. But I happened to be in Amsterdam in October, and it was like unseasonably warm in Amsterdam at the time.
Yeah.
Well, that hurricane was like hitting Ireland.
Yeah.
We flew out of Scotland moments before.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Like
That's
like
nuts.
literally, it was like if our flight was like the next day or like later, that it would have been an issue.
Jesus.
So everybody is Jimmy Buffetting out right now.
Well, snow on the ground that had been there actually began to melt in certain places by like noon.
There you
in
go.
some places.
Break out the margarita mix.
Exactly.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah.
Cheeseburgers in paradise.
Well, you got all this ice. You got all this snow. You just put in the margarita mix. You got your margarita
That's true.
right there.
Yeah. Oh.
Think about how many margaritas people drank back then.
None.
I feel like in any episode with ice and snow,
Wait, you're telling me they don't have lime? They don't have tequila?
Jerry, we are
in
the
Minnesota
history boys.
in
We know
1889?
these
Come
things.
on.
Yeah.
No.
They didn't have a... what is that? What is that restaurant called he has? Jimmy Buffett's...
Margaritaville.
Margaritaville.
Yeah.
I remember that they had the 5 o'clock somewhere thing at the Las Vegas one.
I feel like that was like a colon then a colon,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
It was like
the
a
one
hat
in
on a
Vegas, yeah.
Vegas is a hat on a hat.
Yeah.
Several
But I
hats
still
on
love
several. Yeah, me
It's
too.
a tower of hats.
If you know how to do it right, it's pretty good time.
If you can balance those hats.
I mean, each hat is like the Arby's giant hat, so
Yeah.
it's
I
great.
was gonna see the giant tuxedo.
You don't want
the
that-
head tuxedo that the man wore in the pasties.
I'm just saying you don't want that big neon cowboy kicking your hat stack over.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Jesus.
He's like, I'm the biggest hat in this side of the world.
He's like, I only need one.
That was a weird tangent.
So people had to take advantage of the good weather to feed their livestock and do general chores and work around their homesteads because, yeah, it's a hard life and you got to be out there all the fucking time. And if it's too cold a couple of days, you got to make up for lost time. And if the weather looks good, shit, yeah, you're going to go out there.
Make hay.
Right. Make what you can. So children also went to school that day. Many not bothering to wear their heavier winter clothing. And there were just a few people, though, on the prairie that had been there a little longer than some of these people. And they sensed that something wasn't really right.
Something's amiss.
Yeah, and they stayed in that day.
My knees done acting up.
Yeah. But the vast majority of people didn't even have the luxury to stay in that day. They were like, nope, gotta do it.
Oh, it's like COVID.
Right. And the blizzard would begin in the morning in Montana, and by the time it ravaged as far south as Texas, it was in the afternoon. So it shows you just how fast it swept down through the Midwest.
Sounds like the school should have taken a snow day.
Well, yeah,
That's
but
the
there was
point.
no snow. it was kind of a nice day.
It's unseasonably warm.
Yeah. So one boy who went to school that day was 8-year-old Walter Allen. And Walter was in charge of his row. Did you ever do this in school where you're kind of in charge of the row and you take people's jackets and
No.
lunches and whatever?
I was nobody's bitch when I was in elementary school.
Fair enough. But
But
that's
I was
what
the
he had
door
to do.
holder.
Okay, well, you were everyone's bitch. then.
Yes, I was.
He had to do this. He had to basically keep track of his row's stuff in school. It was
Sounds
an
like a
important
fucking
job for him.
square. He's like Percy
Jackson?
from Harry Potter.
Weasley?
Percy Weasley. Thank you.
He's a prefect.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
I don't
Prefect.
read that shit, Chris.
Yeah. You knew that Percy Weasley was a prefect.
And I also know that he was a traitor. He was teetering on the edge of being a Death Eater even. But I don't read that shit.
Yeah,
even know
what are
that.
you, some kind of turf?
Oh, no. No. I don't know
what you're talking. I don't know.
No fucking idea.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who wrote Harry Potter.
It is not the same thing as a squib or a muggle, but it is connected to J.K. Rowling, and I am not one of those.
Okay.
Anyway, moving on.
So Walter's prized possession was a small glass perfume bottle that he held water in for erasing his chalk slate. You know, because instead of paper, you had a chalk slate. And he was the one with like the fanciest bottle of water, and he kind of had some pride with this cool bottle he had.
Fucking nerd.
Yeah, how
You
often do
don't
you think he
have
got
possessions in this day and age.
Beating his ass, and I was a nerd. I was like the nerd that beat up I was the second nerdiest guy, so I had to beat up the nerdiest guy. He was wearing a cowboy hat to school.
His micro machines weren't as cool as yours.
I never beat up anybody.
You see, I made a point to...
I was the nerdiest guy. I wore the cowboy hat to school.
Yeah, I'm just telling a story about how I got my ass kicked for wearing a cowboy
By
hat.
the second nerdiest guy in school.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know about you guys, but growing up, I made it a point to befriend the kid that was wearing the trench coat.
Yeah.
You know,
Just in case.
just in case.
I actually did that too.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name.
In the real
But
world,
I guess he also did the Naruto run.
yeah.
It's a little before that.
God.
I'm old.
True.
So wait, in the real world,
it was Dragon Ball
you don't
Z
get to
back
dodge bullets by wearing a trench coat, but you get to dodge bullets by being friends with the guy who wears the trench coat.
So anyone who looked up that day to see the sky, whether they were in their fields or inside peering out a window, would have seen a massive black cloud heading for them, and fast.
Oh, God damn it.
Yeah.
That's not ominous.
Within minutes, the temperature dropped dramatically, and gale force winds began violently knocking anything over that wasn't nailed down, and some things that were nailed down. Knocked them all over. And they even rose to hurricane winds at some points.
Wow.
Yeah, it got really fucking bad. Schoolhouses all over the prairie now had a dilemma. Stay put in the schoolhouse with a dwindling fuel supply to stay warm, I guess, for as long as you could, and maybe freeze to death once that runs out, which they didn't have much. No schoolhouse was equipped with days of coal or wood or anything. Or you could venture out into the white abyss to reach the nearest safe place. Both not good options. In Walter Allen's case, the teacher ordered that the children line up and get ready to leave, as there was a horse-drawn sleigh that dredged up the road to rescue the children, driven by like their fathers and stuff.
You go from one cold place to a different cold place. Have fun, kids.
At least one place presumably has fuel to keep you warm.
Yeah.
At least a couple of
But
days.
you gotta get there.
You got to get there. That's the rough part. Now, Walter, because of his duty, he was the last to leave and the last to board the sleigh. However, he soon remembered that the water in the perfume bottle that he prized so much would freeze and break the bottle. And he didn't want that to happen. And considering the sleigh wasn't moving very fast, it was moving so slow, he jumped out of the sleigh and ran back into the schoolhouse.
He's dead.
And he
Fucking Walter.
looked in there, got his bottle, and as soon as he came out, he couldn't see the sleigh. He couldn't see anything.
God damn it.
People even said that you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. It was that bad.
That's pretty bad.
He quickly became disoriented and fell in the snow where it was easier to lay down. Because it tires you out so quickly to not be able to see, not be able to breathe, not be able to do any of these things. So laying in the snow is actually a relief, but it's a ticking clock until you're dead, basically.
Death sentence.
Yes, it is. So yeah, he was like trying to find like the road on his hands and knees. Couldn't find shit. You know, if there wasn't something to grab onto, like fences were kind of a godsend to some people. Because it would at least give you some sort of orientation of where you were and how far to go. But even then, people that gripped onto fences in this blizzard, because of the sensory deprivation, they would think that they've gone too far. And they would like turn around and get confused.
Yeah.
So the fences only helped a little bit, like a fraction of a bit. And by the time his family basically got home, they were like, "Where's Walter?" Well, when did we lose him? I don't know. So like him and like his older brother and his dad came back to the schoolhouse to try to find him. And schoolhouse is empty. They're like, shit. I don't know where the fuck he is now.
And they don't know how many times they drove over him in the snow looking for him.
And they're like, Subaru.
Yeah.
Outback.
Yeah. Miraculously, his older brother found a small drift in the snow where his younger brother was, and he pulled him out of it. And Walter fucking survived.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
He actually died in the early 70s at like the age of 94 or something.
That's
shit.
both the
It's
hardest.
like, snow don't mind me none.
Yeah.
It's like the hardest Where's Waldo ever, where it's just a blank page.
It's
He was like,
just
"Fuck
white.
it."
Yeah.
So
yeah.
just the laziest.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of the guy who made those, but
Yeah.
he just left
It's
that
just
page
a blank page.
I call this fucking page Studio 54, Daddy-O.
Is that what the guy who made Where's Waldo sounds like? Fucking, it's like I'm gonna make this one what I live my life. It's a blizzard in here, you know. And he does cocaine.
Yeah, this one's called
get
Coney Island because it looks like Coney Island.
Yeah.
And it does look like Coney Island, and Waldo's there, and there's some red herrings, and you have a good time
There's a
looking at
beach,
it.
you know.
Yeah.
You can find his hat, but then you find him, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh.
Oh, he's
But-
right there.
But I mean, a lot of people, they would scream your name at the top of their lungs, like standing inside their house and scream your name. You'd never hear it. Even if you were feet away, you would never hear it.
Oh, so it's like being married.
Nice.
Ah.
They would ring cowbells, and you'd never
Nice.
hear it. Actually, there was one girl, she was actually scarred on the face from smallpox, and her parents actually gave her away to another family.
You know,
Because they were like, she's not
Too
going to
ugly.
marry anytime soon.
God
it's
damn.
like, how are we gonna marry her off?
Seriously, that's how it was.
There goes her chances of winning the Miss America pageant.
And the family that bought her was like, buy low, sell high. Chickadee cha cha cha.
They didn't buy her.
No.
What happened was she was separated from someone who she was with, right? And she insisted on going up this way instead of following the road. Because this is the way she had always gone.
So she was
And
ugly and stupid.
she ended up falling down in the snow. Later on, when it finally stopped, she was miraculously still alive. And she pried herself off the ground because she was frozen to the ground.
Jeez.
She pried herself off the ground and heard somebody calling, and she like stood up, like not like on her legs, but like stood up in the snow, and they're like, "What?" Some fucking girl is right there, and her leg was so badly frostbitten it had to be amputated. So she walked for the rest of her life on a wooden prosthetic leg.
Man, she can't catch a break.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She got the Blackfoot.
She eventually did marry, but she died at the age of 25.
Fuck.
I mean, back
It's rough
then.
living. Rough living.
Yeah, what, 25 back then? That'd be like a grandma's age?
No, it's really not.
It's not the reason.
She's like,
the
don't
reason
look at my leg.
lifespan
Don't
was-
look at my face. I make you feel
The
good.
reason lifespan back then was so low is they factor in infant and child death.
Right,
Infant
And it's like-
mortality rates.
Like, I mean, long time ago, I mean, about 25% of people made it to adulthood.
Yeah.
And when you factored in just that, they actually lived.
yeah. The average,
Like-
it's an average. You got to keep that in
Yeah.
mind.
Right.
If you factor in the people who actually made it to adults, the lifespan was quite a bit longer.
Yeah.
Teen suicide rate was a lot higher back then because there wasn't any video games or pornography
Jesus.
so
Or rap
accessible.
music.
Or rap, yeah, exactly.
A father and son were found stranded in their own field with their dog. The father, he actually sacrificed his own warmth for that of his son's, and he froze to death next to his son. His son survived only because the dog was barking next to the snowdrift that had formed over them. There was a small opening, I guessed, for his mouth that he could breathe out of.
Oh, good boy.
No, the son trapped underneath the snow. And he was fished out, but his father was dead.
And I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
It's like the end of The Shining, is what I'm picturing.
Yeah.
Or the beginning of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I get that.
No, that's the earlier thing I
know.
did a Star Wars
That
thing.
this is a reoccurring joke. on the show.
Nobody makes Star Wars references.
Empire Strikes Back is a sequel to The Shining. There, I said it.
Okay. Louise Royce, a school teacher, she was stranded out in the snow with 3 of her students. Of course, became lost in the blizzard. She was found on top of the children in a vain attempt to keep them warm, but the ground had basically absorbed all of their body heat, and she survived, but the children did not.
Oh.
And if you could imagine that, like, waking up on top of 3 dead children and you're alive.
Not ideal.
No, both of her legs actually had to be amputated, and she actually died of complications during that procedure.
Jesus fuck.
So yeah.
She's like, finally, I got to pay my toll.
Another school teacher who was trying to collect her pay for being a teacher, and back then you had to get a signed note saying you worked this amount of time, you had to take the note to a thing. It was a whole fucking to-do. She was actually found in a haystack 72 hours after the storm hit, without any food or water or anything. It was miraculous that she survived. She also lost a leg. Many people lost hands and fingers and legs and arms and things like that to the
frostbite
blizzard. Yes, to the frostbite. One heroine, though, that came out of this disaster was a 19-year-old school teacher named Minnie Freeman. She was actually born on the prairie of Nebraska, so she knew a little bit better than some of the new arrivals.
She knew what the fuck was up.
Her schoolhouse was a one-room sod schoolhouse, and she was basically going to try to hold out for as long as she could in the schoolhouse, and burned everything. Like, burned their desks, burned everything they had. And then the door blew in. And so she, like, ordered a couple of, like, the older boys and whatnot to nail it shut. And it blew in again.
Oh, no.
It shows you how, like, strong these winds were. So she was getting the kids ready to leave.
And say ready to die.
Yeah. Getting them ready to leave. And she was like, okay, when are we going to go? When are we going to go? And then the roof was torn off.
Metal.
Of this school.
Nice.
And she's like, now or never. And there's a part of the legend, Minnie Freeman's legend, is that she tied the kids together with twine that she found on her desk. But one of the survivors actually refutes this.
Yeah, it was her pubic hair. I'm an adult.
Pubic hair was a little bit stronger back then.
Yeah, people were stronger back then. Therefore, their pubic hair was stronger as well.
Yeah,
Sure.
That's true. What Chris is
That's
saying.
fucking history and science. And
Yeah,
biology.
we are history boys, and we give history lessons, and everything we say is true.
Yeah, and very childish.
There were 13 to 16 of them. Sources disagree on how many of them there were. So she had to take all the children, all of them, to the closest place that she knew of. Her boarding house, over a mile away. Now, keep in mind that during this whole disaster, there were farmers that were found feet from their own homes, frozen to a fence post, because they couldn't find their way back from their barn to their house.
Desperado.
Well,
they were out riding fences.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a sort of a thing where you decided how far away to put the barn when you were making your homestead. You put it too close, you get a bunch of bugs in the summertime. Put it too far away, too cold, right? You got to make that big long trip too far away to walk, right?
You got to find that sweet spot.
So there's a sweet spot, right? Well, some people had it a little too far away. They froze to death. Actually, one couple, husband and wife, circled each other in the snow, in the blizzard, and they were both found in between the barn and the house, frozen to death, trying to find each other. Yeah,
The final Marco Polo.
They were in the Goldilocks zone, you know.
yeah. So, like, I mean, keep in mind that the visibility is so low, and again, it's choking and blinding that it's hard to find feet away, let alone 1 mile away.
You can't see your own dick in front of your face.
Yeah. And so Minnie Freeman was taking her students a mile away, which is fucking unheard of. But somehow, miraculously, she did, and all of them survived. And songs were made about her. There's one famous song called 13 Survived about this. And she actually got marriage proposals from all over the country.
They actually left out the verse, though, about her pubic hair being wrapped around the children and keeping them warm.
Or the fact that the pubic hair was prehensile, and she said, "Don't worry, kids," and it crawled out of her pants.
Yeah, she's like Medusa from Marvel. Inhumans, but in her pants.
I was going to say more of like a Venom symbiote from the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well.
Yeah.
Wrapping itself around the children and then lifting them on high and carrying them the mile.
Yeah, and it could also, spider web, you know?
Yeah, it could
sling around.
Well, she did. She would have slang, but there wasn't a lot of trees.
Not a lot of high buildings.
No.
Yeah. You can't even
wasn't
web-
helpful, but she could have done it if she had if the opportunity.
Couldn't
had
even
arisen.
web zip in that weather.
Spider-Man would have been useless.
Yeah. Except to maybe rope people together. I don't know.
I mean,
Sure.
What
Wolverine.
had to use?
With his thick ropes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fire his thick, hot ropes all over the school children.
Yeah.
You made it weird, Chris.
What?
You made it weird.
You went there.
You made it weird.
I'm
It's
just
an
saying-
allegory for puberty, kids. Let's go.
I hate you. I hate all of you.
I'm being very childish today. We're going to get canceled, and deservedly so.
Yeah.
We're not on Twitter.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are.
You guys personally are not. I control our Twitter. So there you go.
Don't put any of the stuff he says on there.
Oh, man.
We're broadcasting this to the world, pal. We have listeners in New Zealand and Australia and
Hearing about all these hot ropes slinging out, carrying these children to safety.
My mom listens to this podcast, and
So does mine.
I wonder.
You know,
I wonder
if she
if
can hear that, you guys can handle that.
Yeah.
our one listener in Estonia can hear that.
Yeah.
Some were not as lucky, however. One family lost nearly all of their children, except for one that did not go to school that day. He was too young.
Called out. It's like, I'm too sick. And they're like, oh, you're too sick on this unseasonably warm day? Bullshit.
Here's
Well,
a
you
water
know-
pail.
The more kids you have, the shittier they get along the way. The
like
first
multiplicity.
That's the reason why I'm stopping at one.
Well, one of her kids was actually born on the ship on the way there.
oh, cool.
Yeah. Well, the crazy part is when they finally found them the next day, frozen together. The father actually wanted to beat up the school teacher because the school teacher didn't bring the kids with him, so the father wanted to like kick his ass. And then like everyone explained to the guy like, "Hey, dude, your kids wanted to go by themselves. They disagreed with the teacher, and there wasn't fucking enough time." And they went off by themselves.
Sounds like they were raised by that guy.
He quietly accepted that fact and put a gun in his mouth. And
Well, here's what happened to him. His name was
Frozen blood.
His name was Johann Albrecht, I believe.
That sounds like a guy who wants to punch out a school
Scandinavian.
teacher.
Yeah, he what he did was he found the bodies, his children that were frozen rock solid, and they brought him inside and set him next to the fire.
Oh,
and the
thawed 'em out.
grief-stricken mother started laughing uncontrollably.
Oh, like the Joker.
And
she became the first
her-
prairie supervillain.
her surviving children or surviving son, they had more children after this, but her surviving son would never talk about this blizzard, but what he said stuck in his mind was the sound of his mother's laughter, because everyone was like, everyone was like, I don't know why she's laughing, but I know why she's laughing.
I mean,
it's like a total loss. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like Breaking Bad.
It's your brain
Cracking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally, like you're going through so many emotions and
it's Shakespearean.
Yeah.
like fuck.
You go through all this.
Though in her defense, it was really funny looking.
Six of the children that she had given birth to died.
That's really sad. I'm sorry I made jokes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for everything I've ever said.
Yeah.
I'm not. For you on your
Yeah.
behalf.
She had given birth to 11 children in all, but 6 of them died.
And
for
the one
one reason or
that
another.
survived went on to be not very fun at parties.
No. Most of these families, though, that we're talking about are still there, working the same land. Like the one that took in the girl with the wooden leg, or would get a wooden leg.
And the scarred face, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That family still works the same piece of land that they got back then.
Whew.
So, I mean, these are hard motherfucking people. You know what I mean?
I bet they voted for Biden.
Well, the thing that makes it even worse is that they're now working on Monsanto land. So
That's a whole other conversation. So for the days and weeks following the disaster, friends and loved ones were found frozen to the ground where they lie. Faces are already eaten away by rats and vermin. Because think about that, like, cops aren't finding your loved ones frozen in fields. You know, coroners aren't finding
You gotta
your
find him
dad out
yourself.
there. You find him yourself. And guess what? You got to do that ugly deed yourself of peeling them off the ground and breaking their bodies so they fit into a fucking coffin.
Oof.
You know what I mean? It's rough business.
You could just get special made coffins that are in the position that they were frozen in.
It's
Yeah.
fucking dark.
I mean,
You're like, do you have any
I'm being a realist here.
if they were frozen, though, couldn't you just take a hammer and just, shatter
tink.
them into tiny
Yeah.
pieces? Yeah.
Well,
And then
yeah,
the-
you break them to fit. Is what you do.
Yeah, and then
No.
you
So yeah, you're not far
you
off.
put all the pieces in a bucket, they thaw, and you pour it into a casket.
Oh no, that's what you do. You essentially like blend up the corpse, right, into
Yeah.
a slurry. Then you pour it into the mold of a person who's dying in a more peaceful position, and then you essentially bake that loaf and you pour. And you,
Jesus Christ.
Back in the old-timey easy bake ovens.
That's so fucked up.
Human viscera.
That's so fucked up.
you put a couple of googly eyes on it, and you.
You can have an open casket.
Jesus Christ. I just got done telling you, like, their families are all still alive and still sort of remember this. This is only, like, 2 generations ago.
not gonna
for some
listen to
reason.
this.
Either that, or you get a coffin in the shape of a screaming rictus.
Oh my god. Actually, Walter Allen's daughter, I believe, lives across the street pretty much of where her dad almost died.
And
the snow.
she now has her own ice making company.
Oh god, I don't know. Leave me alone with that kind of stuff.
We were being so insensitive to the suffering of
I
these
know
poor
you
people.
are. I know you are. I was like,
It was like
I am shocked.
it was like
shocked.
It was like
We're
what,
offending you.
Yeah, a little bit.
3 or 4 people ago. 4
Yeah,
people
Walter
ago.
was. Yeah. He was
Yeah.
a little while ago. And cattle and livestock froze where they stood. Entire herds of cattle were decimated. So think about this. Everything you've ever worked for, everything you've ever made out on this godforsaken piece of earth is now gone.
Our podcast.
Including your fucking family. Or at least members of your family. Or your hand. Or
about-
your fingers. Or your leg.
Right.
What
Or
about
both
the
legs.
pets?
They're
Oh
gone.
god. Yeah.
All are gone.
Actually,
They were outdoor pets.
One boy was found frozen to the outside wall of his own house. He was out there with his dog,
Oh.
and the dog scratched at the door, and they got the dog. The dog survived, and the boy was found without his jacket. And it's thought that he tried to put his jacket around the dog to like
Aw.
keep them both warm, and the wind tore his jacket away, and the dog got away, and he didn't.
Aw.
Yeah, so awful.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
Yeah.
It's like
one,
frozen Pompeii.
Yeah, one guy was actually found because he fell against the wall of his own house, and his family inside heard it and went outside and grabbed him, and he survived.
It's literally like a Mother Nature freeze ray swept across the land and froze everyone in place.
Kind of.
Like Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm just trying to save my wife by murdering all these
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
It's really sad, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is. And this is not to mention the railroads and telegraph lines were all completely destroyed. The railroads, people were on the trains.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And they were frozen in place.
The trains, they didn't.
But
Not-
the choo-choos stayed warm on the inside.
No, because not all of them had dining cars, so not all of them even had food or even enough coal to last them for a couple of days.
We only got popsicles, folks.
We got all these
Lots
other
of
pops.
popsicles.
Yeah.
And then it turned into a train to Busan.
So
Right.
people gathered in one car to stay warm, and they actually dumped the money out of like the they in the back they'd keep all the money in like these burlap bags.
Yeah.
They dumped the money
Take
out.
dollar signs on them.
Yeah, they dumped the money out and curled up in those.
Ooh.
I
to stay
figured they were
alive.
gonna-
Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah.
They were going to burn the money in a socialist act.
Nice.
For some reason, I thought they were like, they were cuddling under the money, but no, it was the burlap sacks.
It was a burlap sacks. Another phenomena, and this is super cool, something I did not know actually at all, that occurred during this disaster was something that sailors referred to as St. Elmo's Fire.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Judd
Do you know what that
Nelson?
is? Do you know what St. Elmo's Fire is?
Dude.
Not the movie.
Yeah, like
It's a movie.
It's a
It's got the Rat Pack.
no, it's the sort of like a corona effect with the sun.
Yeah, now it's called corona discharge is what it's called.
Coronal discharge. Solar flares.
No.
Oh, well.
Is it like what does it look like? Like
Cut that.
It looks kind of like ball lightning.
Oh.
And a lot of people think people mistake it for ball lightning.
Right.
Or ball lightning
Oh,
for
coronal mass ejections
for St.
are
Elmo's
solar
fire.
flares. My bad.
So
Sorry, just science. You know,
It's not
something
like
I'm into.
what
Aurora Borealis.
No. What caused this in this particular instance was that all the ice shards are moving really fast, right? And depending on elevation, they're all in all these different temperatures.
Right.
And when they blow across surfaces that are also different temperatures, it creates all this electricity. And electricity that's just in the air. So like off the top of like bull's horns, let's say, or off the top of your fire poker, all of a sudden it just go whoop, you know, like a Jacob's ladder. Like,
so fucking cool.
You know, you could like snap in the air and it would go whoop,
Wow.
and like there'd be like all over your house. You'd be looking around and there'd be like pop, pop, and be like zzz, zzz, and be like I'm afraid to touch anything. You know?
And then a big hairy man comes through the door and goes, "You're a wizard, Harry."
That's St. Elmo.
Yes.
Yeah, Saint Elmo.
You're a wizard, Harry? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a puppet or something.
I like to touch kids or something like that. Didn't
No,
Elmo
he likes
touch
to be
kids?
touched by
he likes to
kids.
be touched by
Oh,
kids. Exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it flipsy
Yeah,
dipsy.
Jerry, it's don't get it twisted. He just liked to be molested by children, which is completely different than
Yeah.
molested.
Yeah,
It's
not
not
as
weird.
bad.
It's natural.
So yeah, in the West, this blizzard was an absolute disaster, and it really affected the people that lived there for a long time. And people that like didn't want to live there, that like lost all their children, were like, "Hey, fuck this," and moved back east
Yeah.
because can't do this anymore. And speaking of the East, in the Eastern newspapers, when they reported on this blizzard, they almost reported on it in a condescending tone. They were like, I mean, that's rough living out in the West, you know. This is what happens when you go out there, kind of a thing. Like, this is dangerous.
Idiots did dumb stuff.
Well, and it was sort of an era of, like, it couldn't happen here.
Yeah.
You know, that's wild, untamed land. Never happen here.
You got to leave it to the lamestream media to write a condescending piece.
If you want to get fucked in the East, just have the Rockefellers do it. Yeah. Go out west and it's...
Andrew Carnegie.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, a cruel and unyielding Mother Nature that
Well,
will
and-
take everything and feel nothing for what it's
Well,
doing.
and technically, Andrew Carnegie does have a stake in fucking the people in the West over, because again, that railroad propaganda, you know, getting the people out there in the first place.
You know what just occurred to me, gang, is we have a story about people going out west, and we didn't mention the Pet Shop Boys or Tom Waits.
No,
Well,
we did not.
Now we
it's
did.
about fucking time.
Now we did.
Thank you.
Now we did.
Well, the East was spoiled with a few winters that were pretty mild. And they're like, yeah, it's fine out here. And that winter was fairly mild. And they're like, it's fine. So by March of 1888, snow was the last thing on their mind. They were talking about baseball. They were talking about all of these things. You know, P.T. Barnum Circus was going to have its grand opening that week.
We got
Cool.
Bengal tigers romping in the January cold.
Well, March. It's March by this point.
March cold.
Well, it's spring is dawning. And Walt Whitman, actually, for the New York Herald, for the New
Saw
York
his own
Herald.
shadow.
No, Walt,
I'm sorry, I was thinking of Henry David Thoreau. My bad.
no, Walt Whitman for the New York Herald, he actually wrote a poem called The First Dandelion. And it was published on March 12th, 1888. And most people, when they read it, scoffed. And they thought, this is ridiculous. Because on March 11th, They were hit with a giant fucking blizzard.
They were like, thank God he wrote this poem so I could throw it directly in the fire.
This poem will keep us warm.
It just seemed kind of ludicrous, you know,
Yeah.
because one day earlier it was fine, you know, and they would of course publish it
Yeah,
the
what
next
an
day.
idiot. He should have
Right.
seen it coming.
Yeah. So on Sunday, March 11th, 1888, the weather station was actually closed on the weekends in this time, so no weather reporting was coming out.
There was no weather on the weekends.
No
Yeah,
news
no,
is
no,
good
no.
news.
No, you close it down. And it was at 4 p.m., and actually this is a sweet spot when most of the people were outside. Most of the people in New York City and Boston were outside
Playing stickball.
as a Saturday. No, they're just going to and fro, house and work, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Stick and
Hanging
ball.
out in the street, playing stickball.
Yeah. Drinking
Buying
co-
some
drink Coca-Cola.
erotica in Times Square.
No, this before that. They made the erotica themselves in those days.
Right.
I'm saying there's an old timey shopkeep who makes his own erotica and sells it.
Yeah, and it's tin type.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was in Times Square, and Rudy Giuliani put a stop to that.
He's like, damn this art.
He's like, I'm the only one with my hands down my pants.
I was adjusting
You
my
got
shirt.
him.
I got him
That's
good.
what he said.
You farted.
You're like a Borat style character, Chris.
I'm like a Borat.
yeah.
My wife.
Yeah. Ah, you have a wife too. It's crazy.
Just like Borat. Mm-hmm. So it began to rain. No one thought anything of it, but it got real cold all of a sudden, and that rain turned into sleet,
Uh-oh.
and that sleet turned into snow,
Oh dear.
and it got the wind started to get atrocious, and all of a sudden, you know, people are now caught in the middle of this because again, no warning. It happened real fast. Boom, people are out in the middle of
But
it.
their houses are made of brick in the east.
Well, and okay, so we'll get to what was good for them. Like that is one thing. Insulation was probably one thing, but that didn't do them a lot of good because what happened is in New York City in this time, they would get nearly everything delivered. They'd get coal delivered. They'd get bread and milk delivered. But when it blizzard, there was no transportation, so you got nothing. So you didn't have 2 days supply of coal.
No
or anything.
Uber Eats.
No, nothing like that.
Milk's done frozen.
So you ran out of shit fast.
So your
Fast.
erotica is not showing up.
You don't
your
get that
food's not showing
daily
up.
If you don't
delivered
if
homemade
you
erotica.
get any water on your glass erotica, it's going to crack in the cold.
Yeah.
So you got to keep it dry.
Yeah.
And so you're using all your towels that you could be to keep your family warm, maybe throw them in the fire because they're covered in oil because of the time. And
You
you're
call
using
them
that.
towels, I call them cum
He's just
rags.
making shit.
It's just
up.
like you got to keep that. No, you got to keep. I'm following. You got to keep the glass erotica
It's
dry.
It's
Glass
made out of stained
erotica.
glass. It was passed down from generations.
Yeah. And you got to keep it dry.
Yeah.
So you're holding it over the fire while everyone else is freezing. But like, it'll crack if it gets wet. It'll crack. And they're like,
But it also crack if it gets too hot. So you got to keep it just right.
you don't want it wet, but you don't want it too hot.
Yeah.
It can be cool, but it can't be wet.
And this is your great grandfather's glass erotica that he brought from the old country.
Yeah, back from Norway.
It's not even the tin type stuff. It's not this new hot medium.
Yeah.
It's an older must be kept cool medium.
It's a family heirloom.
Yeah. But a very erotic one,
Okay.
Doggy
Well-
style.
which was regular back in the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the winds howled at 45 miles an hour, and some of the taller buildings, actually in Blizzard's sense, this also happened. Some of the taller buildings is where it was the worst, so the windows actually popped out and fell to the ground below. But it also created these giant snow drifts that were like 40 to 50 feet, sometimes even higher than 50 feet in a lot of places. Giant snow drifts, you know, complete with dead bodies and dead horses inside.
Oh, the horses.
So you're stuck
The
inside.
livestock.
Not the livestock.
You're going nowhere. You're dealing with bonesaw in this situation.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't sign up for a cage match.
No.
Yeah. They
It
all
is-
send up for a cage match.
It is said that 400 people in the Northeast died as a direct result of the blizzard. 200 of them were in New York City alone, which is
I mean-
nuts.
That's most of the people back then.
That's half the world's population.
No,
There were
no, no.
800 people on the planet
Yeah.
in 1888. from what I understand.
And 40 of them were Socrates. Like, Socrates like people. People of
getting
value.
derailed.
Okay, sorry.
People of value, I get it.
Yeah, all communication was cut off between, like, Toronto, totally cut off. Boston, totally cut off. New York, all the way down to Washington, D.C.
Tokyo.
So, like, no.
Well, in his defense, it was cut off.
Even though there were ineffectual presidents at the time, there was still no way to get any sort of aid there. There was no transportation, no telegraph wires to do anything. And keep in mind that all the telegraph wires and power lines in New York City at the time were all above ground. And if you look at the pictures at the time, especially the telegraph wires, they're everywhere. The city is wrapped in telegraph wires. And back then, people kind of liked seeing that. Like, people now think that they're unsightly, but they liked seeing it because it was the Gilded Age. Mm-hmm. And every little telegraph wire meant that somebody somewhere was making money. Yeah, and that we were prospering, right? Mm-hmm. But this ravaged them, tore them down all over the place. You know, knocked in shops, you know.
Oh, no, my wire.
The damage
my precious
was
wires.
Yeah.
Those wires were passed down from your great-grandmother in the old country.
Yeah. Like, oh, no.
Honey, wire the butler.
There's also erotica carved into the wires.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was like, I'm taking off my brassiere. Stop. I'm touching my bosom. Stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Oh boy.
I'm arriving.
How are you going to get those messages to Grover Cleveland?
Yeah.
Dear listeners out there, if you can telegraph us some erotica, that would make our whole year.
You can still send telegrams.
We've established
You've talked about that on the show at some point.
Have
Yes.
Yeah, you told us
Okay,
that.
great.
Why didn't you put that in a trivia show? I could have remembered.
Yeah, there you go.
Also sign up for our Patreon so you can listen to our quiz show.
There you go. No, Grover Cleveland, actually funny little tangent. Democrat, all right, only president to ever be elected non-consecutive. Ron Paul's favorite president. Why do you think that is?
Because he didn't care about poor
Like
people.
small
He
government?
didn't spend money on anything. And took away funding from almost everything. So again, we want to talk about switching platforms of the Democrats and Republicans. Look at Grover Cleveland.
You're saying that the Democrats wanted to cut funding and liked states' rights.
Yes.
But the switch is a myth.
Yes. That's
one motherfucker.
Yeah. It boggles my mind, honestly. Like, I am baffled. My jaw hit the floor when I saw it. I was like, what backwoods ass motherfucking school did you go to? Sorry. I'm done roasting that guy. Anyway, we usually roast people in private.
Yeah. That one guy who hit us up on Twitter, I think.
I forget.
The one that hates Tyler?
No, that was funny. No, the guy who said that the switching of the parties was a myth. I'm pretty sure we've talked about him on the show many times.
Yeah. It's inspired whole episodes, so that's great. I thank him for it, honestly. He's given me a lot of content.
His rabid ignorance has inspired episodes.
Yes.
And there's buckets of evidence to the contrary.
Oh my god. There are vats of evidence.
I hope he hears this, but I'm pretty sure he stopped listening to the show.
It's A-okay with me.
It's AOC for me.
Yeah, hopefully if you voted a certain way, you've turned us off a long time ago. Anyway, so when that storm hit without any warning, rich and poor alike fled to like the same shelters, same places, because you're trying to find the closest place.
Oh, I bet the rich hate
their tuxedos are getting scuffed by all these pores.
I got all the shit on my tuxedo by rubbing up against poor people.
Yeah.
Instead of rubbing up against the whores I usually rub up against.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't help that the only lasting place was the Arby's that everyone was at. So everyone was in their...
It was a black tie affair.
event.
You had to sit at your table. They brought you your beef and cheddar on a silver platter.
And that's why everybody was feeling so nihilistic, and that's where it comes from.
Yes.
Nice. History.
Thank you, Brendan
History.
Kelly, for Nihilist Arby's.
Actually, budding history boy,
Oh.
Teddy Roosevelt, had a meeting that day at the New York Historical Society, and he wasn't going to miss it. And so it was a few blocks away, and he braved the storm and walked through it all the way there. It took him a long time to get there, but he finally made it, only to find that the head of the New York Historical Society that he was there to meet didn't come in because of the storm.
Fuck.
He
What a
was
bitch.
livid. He was pissed.
He's like, ain't no snow gonna stop me.
yeah.
Well, he walked quietly through the snow with a big stick.
Yeah.
So
He was knocking the snow out of the air with his
Yeah.
big stick.
Yeah, it was like Gandalf. He like held it up and like it all just like
He's like, do
formed
not
around him.
pass. Well, he said, do not pass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
he
has to
speaks
speak quietly. Yeah,
Right.
and he actually Teddy Roosevelt
5
actually
cent joke.
owned land out west that was ravaged by the earlier blizzard. So he was like, oh damn, you know. Mark Twain was actually stranded in New York
bet
as
he-
this happened.
But he hated that. He's like, I gotta get my goddamn steamboat.
yeah, I know. I was gonna say riverboat.
Well, he was actually pissed off that he didn't have any cigars.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
But he had plenty of snow, if you know what I mean.
nice.
Again, talking about cocaine. That's a running.
Everybody had cocaine was medicine.
Yeah.
See, every time we keep talking about snow, I keep thinking about the Informer, the Canadian rapper.
Yeah.
I just-
Informer.
Oh, there we go.
I like it boom boom down.
Yeah. I know what you're talking
I didn't
about.
know what you're talking about at first, but once you sang the song, I was like, I am familiar
You're
with
like,
this song.
I existed in the early 90s, therefore I know about
I have
snow
heard this
and
song.
Informer.
I keep thinking about Jump Into the Fire by Harry Nilsson because of that scene in Goodfellas.
I keep thinking about Tom Waits going out west because they went out west.
They did go out west.
And I
where
keep
people
thinking about
appreciated
Arby's.
them.
Clearly. Because it's a day that ends in Y.
Another man you may recognize was also caught in the blizzard.
Was it Nixon?
Roscoe Conkling.
Oh,
the
no.
conch's about.
he got conked.
Remember in the was it the Garfield or Arthur episode? I believe it was the Arthur episode.
He's been in 4 episodes.
Yeah,
now.
he is the most reoccurring character.
Welcome to the Roscoe Conkling podcast.
So Roscoe Conkling, if you remember from that episode, he was stuck in a winter storm. It was this storm. And remember that the carriage driver that he hit up, one of the few operating carriage drivers, was like, I'll take you that 3 miles for $50.
Surge pricing.
And Roscoe Conkling, this rich man, said, fuck that, you're price gouging. And he was like, yeah.
Oh, I remember that.
And he decided to cut through Central Park to make it to the 3 miles.
It's a principle thing.
Yeah,
Right.
and it took him 3 hours to go that 3 miles. So moving at 1 mile an hour. He actually got stuck in the snow at one point and freed himself. And by the time he got home, he collapsed in the entryway, and he got pneumonia from this trip and died as a direct result of this blizzard.
That's what
Probably
killed
should have paid that
Conkling.
extra a couple
This
bucks.
blizzard killed Roscoe Conkling.
No shit.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yep.
Freeze.
You
Yeah.
see, I thought the reason why
April
that
18th, 1888 is when he died.
that's so nuts to me. I thought the reason why, like, cutting through the park, you know, that 3 hours for 3 fucking miles, like that's so goddamn slow. It's so
1
crazy.
mile an hour.
I can't help but think that he saw a lot of bum fights and bum 69ing, and that he had to stop and just witness it.
I don't think you saw anything because of the snow, and it's blinding and
I
deafening.
thought he was
and
walking.
It chokes you.
So
And
I
Zach,
thought
that's
he was
under the
walking through
boardwalk,
Winter
first of all.
Wonderland. Sure.
Yeah, under the boardwalk.
Under the boardwalk
Under
is
the
more like.
boardwalk where 2 bums are like doggy styling, and one's got a radio around his neck, so wants some sweet jams.
Oh, I've seen that Sunny
Always Sunny.
episode.
That's funny. Yeah.
The newly built above-ground L trains also ground to a halt in New York City, leaving many commuters stranded above ground. Impossible to get out. Impossible to get out. So, of course, New Yorkers, being as entrepreneurial as they were back then,
That's one way to put it.
They busted out their ladders, and they climbed up, and they offered a small fee to rescue people. To use their ladder and come down. 50 cents is what they were offering. You
That's
pay me
not
50
bad.
cents, you can get... That was like $10 back then.
Well,
I mean, I might be
Another
exaggerating.
Still an
reason
asshole.
why I hate New York so goddamn much. Everyone's got an angle, you know?
Yeah.
Ugh.
It also caused fires from down power lines that people were helpless to stop because no fire trucks or any.
but the
anything
ice
could get
would
through.
make the fire go out.
No, it raged anyway.
No,
No.
my experience with fire Pokemon.
At least it was warm near it.
Fire Pokemon are strong against ice Pokemon.
Yes, that's true.
Water Pokemon is what you
On
want.
the other hand, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, against fire. I don't know what's weak against ice. Psychic? Ghost?
I don't think it's
fucking
psychic.
know.
I think you're right.
You're gonna
fucking
need to
know. You needed ghosts. That's the problem.
You
This
ghost.
fire's raging out of control. Has anyone got a psychic?
They got to open up that
one time you
Ghostbusters
used
locker.
And let all the ghosts out.
Let all the goo out.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
They let all
That's
the
the
ghosts
second one. But the goo would have worked too, because it's got ghost powers.
You could put you can put fires out with the goo.
Yeah, you can.
Is this goo ghost? It's not ghost. It's ghost powered.
Yeah.
It's ghost like.
It's
For a
got
second, I thought you were going to say ghost powder.
it's got
And I was
ghost
like,
energy,
What?
and therefore would put out the snow.
You can rub it on the Statue of Liberty and drive it like a car.
Yep. And rescue people. Ghostbusters 2.
They literally do that in
happens
Ghostbusters too.
It's been a long time
It's in
since
the-
I've seen
it's in
that.
They cover the Statue of Liberty in fucking ghost goo and they drive it like a car.
Yep, that's right.
100%.
That is ridiculous. That is absurd.
Yeah. The sequel's not good.
Talk about jumping the shark.
The first one's so good, though.
I remember
so,
Slimer. That's about it.
Yeah.
well, slime.
They're like, slime is the thing that makes this popular. So let's add way more slime.
Yeah, exactly.
You got slimed.
Ultimately, the storm caused $25 million of damage, and that's in 1888 money. In 2020 money, that's $710 million of damage.
Jesus.
$710 million.
Yeah,
That's like a Sunday
That's
for
right.
Jeff
710
Bezos.
Yeah, that's what I was
million.
thinking too.
Yeah. For the days and weeks after the blizzard, the city hired hundreds of laborers because, of course, people couldn't go to work. So the city actually hired them, doubled their wage to $1.50 a day to dig the city out of the mess. And what they did is they dug this. But once you dig out the snow, where do you put the snow, right? Well, luckily, New York is surrounded by two rivers.
I was about to say.
They just dump the snow into the rivers.
Oh, into the old
Throw it
Hudson
into the East River with all the corpses.
and the East River.
Yeah, so
The
they just dump.
Hudson.
Yeah, they just dump them into those two rivers, and that's how you get rid of it.
I'm surprised they didn't
That
go
would work.
over
It
the.
would melt immediately.
Yeah, it worked.
I'm
Between
honestly
that and the
surprised that they
corpses.
didn't go over the bridge and dump it over in Jersey.
I mean, that's
pile
extra
it on
effort,
top.
but
You throw it on a boat to Staten Island.
it's extra effort to do it, but it's worth it.
Staten Island wasn't a thing yet, so they could have theoretically.
So what's
piled it
Pete
in Staten
Davidson
Island.
doing
There's
right
no one
now?
there.
Nothing yet.
Oh, he's not
Nothing
alive.
yet. No, he's not alive.
I thought he always existed.
Maybe he does kind of look like a Skeletor out of time. Sort
Well,
of man.
I mean, there was like
He looks like a ghost.
There was P.T. Reginald Davidson, and he was covered in archaic tattoos that nobody gives a shit about, and he wasn't funny then either.
Jesus.
He isn't. I don't think he's funny, but fans, if you like Pete Davidson,
I don't care
enjoy
if you
it.
like Pete Davidson.
Enjoy
I don't care
him.
what you like, as long as you like us.
My wife thinks he's funny, but I think she thinks he's hot.
He's got
which
big
I
dick
don't-
energy.
I don't
I think
get.
we don't like him because chicks want to fuck him.
But
We
I don't
get
think
it.
he's handsome. You know, Chris Hemsworth. I get it. I want to fuck Chris.
Well,
Hemsworth.
I know.
Brad Pitt.
Yeah, right? He's like 80
He's a
years old and
gorgeous
everyone
man.
wants to fuck.
But
He is
Pete
Robert
Davidson?
Redford from when I was a child.
Yeah,
Now.
right.
You know what I mean?
Robert Redford now is more attractive than
George Clooney.
Yeah.
I'm
Silver
just saying.
Bucks.
I can see it. I can see it with George.
see
I
it.
would love to have me a Clooney daddy, personally.
All right.
I don't see it with Pete Davidson, and he's not funny. So
Okay.
he's no Dane Cook, if you don't know.
Oh, I'm in the Dane lane.
And yeah, during the massive cleanup, just hundreds of bodies were just found, and like I guess people just going out and like trying to get coal for the fire and stuff would like trip over fucking dead bodies. So most people that were hired to do the cleanup were people that pretty much lost their job because they didn't go into work while the blizzard was happening.
Fired.
Yep, and that's what happened to a lot of people.
That's because there was no protection for workers back then.
No, and there were so many people coming in that you're a dime a dozen. Honestly,
Yeah.
workers are a dime a dozen. So it was no skin off of anyone's teeth if they fired you.
Oh,
So-
like a global pandemic.
Yeah, so the people that were predominantly hired to do the cleanup of the city were Irish and Italian immigrants that did that.
Hey.
Yeah, and their whole
Hey.
and
Hey.
and they got
Is
that.
that Italian? Or
yeah,
is that
their-
Irish?
This is the Irish and Italian guys yelling at each other.
That was like they got their whole families involved too. Like, okay, well, you get to come with me. You get to come with me, and we get to clean up the city. But at least it was double wages for the weeks that it took to do
Well, they weren't that
cleanup.
weak.
That
Weeks.
$1.50.
Oh.
days of the week. Took.
I I thought you were
It took
calling
days and
I
weeks.
thought you were calling the immigrants weaks.
They were
like
physically weak, but they were emotionally weak.
No, they were both
I'm
physically
kidding.
and mentally fucking
No.
strong
I
to
imagine
make
I
it
would've-
through all this shit.
I would be having a panic attack.
Oh, I know. There's all these people being like, I'm having a panic
They're, like,
attack, my
covered-
emotional state.
They're, like covered in soot, and they're like, just take a shovel,
Yeah,
like,
no.
Right.
No, they're not caring about their fucking like self-care or anything like that. They're just fucking
No.
getting in there. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I'm
No,
saying
there was. They got drunk and beat their families.
Well, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. The
They were
flip side.
bad people.
Some of them were, not all of them.
When you're
but
raised that hard, you're going to be a
Yeah.
pretty
Wait,
good
you're gonna be a
person.
hard fucking
Yeah.
person.
That's called old timey therapy. Okay,
Yeah,
like it's
maybe
fine.
you're breaking down in an alley, or beating your family, or drinking yourself to death. There were ways of
And
dealing
hiding
with
your-
self-care.
Hiding your homosexuality from the community.
Yeah,
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. So, as I said, the consequences of this severe blizzard, people went back east out of the west. Some people came back, but by and large, like, a lot of people moved out. The people that stayed, were made of just fucking grit. You know what I mean? The bickering U.S. Army Signal Corps that failed to get the weather report out on time was eventually dismantled, and the job of predicting and reporting the weather was eventually given to the Department of Agriculture. And this is like an aspect of the story that I'm going to sort of gloss over. I just don't have time to get into all of this. But the broad swaths is that the Signal Corps at the time was full of people that didn't really take their job very seriously. There was people that thought that they were legit scientists that tried to make their own personal gain come out more than actually accurately predicting the weather with the few technological tools that they did have. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of a mess.
Just fucking scientists.
And it has to go back and, like, the way it worked, like, it had to go back and forth, and there was people that, well, don't tell them that, because if you tell them that, then people will panic, and, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Right.
COVID's no big deal.
Right, yeah. He was just playing with the psychology of our nation. Yeah, that's good.
It's like he was trying to keep people from panicking, and in doing so, got,
200,000
now 3,000 a day.
And
quarter of a
excess-
million people dead.
In excess of 200,000 people died.
Whoops.
How many people died in 9/11?
Just under 3,000.
Oh, and
That's about-
200 of COVID deaths. But my point is that a shit ton of people have died over this year, and never forget, right? I just want to tell all those people that. And then there's of course people that are like, oh, they just write COVID down.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, why would they do that? What is there to gain?
Because the hospitals get more money that way.
How?
Yeah, right?
Okay. Anyway.
So on with the blizzard consequences.
And if you want to hear more about that and like the meteorological implications of this storm and the Signal Corps and all this stuff, it is really interesting. Again, I just don't have the time for it. It is in the book Children's Blizzard by David Laskin. It is a fantastic book. I highly recommend it to anyone. It is our main source for this episode. And yes, it is really fantastic. It's a great historical book. Absolutely.
Well, there you go, folks.
Also, instead of weather stations being closed on the weekends, they would remain open 24/7 to predict the weather, because it's like, we're not going to be open on God's day. And, March 11th.
And then God said, "Fuck you."
Yeah. March 11th, 1888 was a Sunday. So there you go. And as a direct result of the blizzard, the eastern metropolitan cities decided it was a better idea to put many of their telegraph lines and trains underground. So it was the birth of the New York and Boston subway systems.
No shit.
It was a direct result of this blizzard. They basically raced to put everything underground.
I've heard people talk shit about the New York subsystem, but when you come from Seattle,
Oh my god.
you're like, you could take the subway everywhere?
Anywhere?
And then I had
Yeah.
people be like, oh my god, London's is so much better because you don't have to go up and back down. It's like, oh, we have a subway that was built like 2 years ago that goes from one place to the other place, and you have to like
a light
take a
rail.
lift to get there.
Yeah.
Right.
We have one light rail that goes through the city.
It goes north to south, but only from a semi-northmost point to the airport.
Every single other major city I've been to is better public transportation than Seattle.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean,
like fucking Budapest.
Living in the West.
Budapest
Living in the West.
has better.
Well, and that's
Germany is what came to mind immediately.
That's despite the federal government offering Seattle money for an underground subway system for the better part of 50 years, and every single time Seattle turning them down because they're like, nah, no thanks. It sounds like a lot of trouble. And
well,
the city will never be
a giant.
This city will never get super big when tech companies blow up the fucking place.
Yep.
Yeah, and our roads won't be clogged at all hours of the
Hopefully
day.
they'll get mad and they'll all go to Texas.
A man can dream.
Now, there have been deadly blizzards before 1888 and since 1888. But this one, considering its timing and circumstances, is the one that history will forever remember. Especially in the hearts and minds of those who lived through it and their descendants.
That sounds like
I feel bad for all the jokes I made.
As usual.
I feel so
more than usual.
Yeah.
I feel so bad about all those jokes you made. You should feel really
I said some really fucked up things, and I edit this, and I'm leaving them in.
Yeah, well, you should do it just as a penance.
I'm trying to get canceled so bad, you guys, so I can finally live free.
Yeah. Only people that do bad things get canceled.
You're never
truly
free until you get canceled.
Yeah. Well, also, yeah, people who say things don't get canceled anymore. What is this, 2014?
I'm also making fun of it's the people who rail against cancel culture. It's like, you can't say you get canceled. I was like, who got fucking
no one
Harvey Weinstein got canceled.
So guys,
no one actually gets canceled for saying mean things.
As soon as this is over,
Roseanne.
Chris is going to launch a career.
She said racist
as
things.
She'll be back.
Anti-cancel culture comedian, and every joke he's going to be like, I guess I shouldn't be saying this, and it's going to be like
I'd be like Kevin Hart or Bill Burr, who I actually love Bill Burr, but he does rail against that a little. I'm just tired of comedians. I was like, just stop bitching about it.
Yeah.
Grow up. Do something fucking
new. Honestly,
you're gonna
regardless of how you feel about her, like Sarah Silverman basically put it the best and said, like, look, I used to think this stuff was funny. People told me it was hurtful, so I moved on. I figured out a better way to joke about things. I just figured out better things to joke about. And honestly, that's the most mature way of going about it. Stop bitching to me about not being able to be funny. Say what you want to say.
Or you can take everything they're saying, push it aside, and watch my new special, Grass-Fed, more like ass-fed. It's going to be wherever I can find it. It's probably going to be on my own YouTube channel that I'm going to be creating pretty soon. It's going to have a lot of really dynamic content.
All right, so
let's
that was our episode.
Let's wrap her up.
There's one thing I want to say before we wrap it up.
God damn it!
I am a history boy.
Oh,
and my name is Christopher Whedon.
And I am also one of 4 current standing members of the HistoryBoiz Union of Men. And my name is Tyler Armentrout. You don't have to be a man to be in the union. I could be swapped out at any time with any human being.
Well, actually, the HistoryBoiz have existed for millennia. Yeah. Much like Assassin's Creed, where we just swap out people. Like you said, Teddy...
We get signet rings.
Yeah. Teddy Roosevelt was a history boy.
He was a history boy.
So was Stalin.
Joseph Stalin.
So was Gandhi.
I would say V.I. Lenin was more of a history boy.
Stalin was there long. I'm going to be honest. Stalin was... V.I. Lenin was there, and then Stalin got there.
Well,
and
he
then
just took the signet ring.
And really what happened was...
He ripped it off his fucking finger.
Jerry found out that his great-grandfather was an original history boy, and he looked back through the histories and found out that, like, Leonardo da Vinci, and then we had, like, Mussolini, and there's some other guys in there, maybe some good, some bad.
All of them were pretty bad.
Where are you going?
Mussolini was there.
Where are you going?
Honestly, during World War,
it was a Da Vinci Code style situation.
During World War II,
you can see the HistoryBoiz in paintings if you look close.
If you look close enough, you'll see.
There's like a medieval Christ on a cross.
Yeah, and Jerry's hanging out.
Yeah, and I'm like in the background, and I'm like flipping you off.
Have you ever seen Da Vinci's Perfect Man? More like Perfect History Boy.
Nice.
That's Zach.
That's me.
It looks a lot like Zach. We would never lead you astray, dear listener. We would never lead you astray.
I would.
It's true. I mean, the only difference though is that in the Veturian Man, that's me obviously. Is that the stomach tattoo that I have that says fatty isn't on the actual.
It was
painting.
before you got the tattoo.
Exactly.
Well, and also people, keep in mind, Zach, people all over the internet have seen your stomach from your Halloween costume.
Yes.
So they know that this tattoo does not exist.
It was Harley Quinn. It was 2016.
You're lying.
A lot of people.
You're
were
a
being that
liar,
character.
Zach.
I am a writer of truths.
Also,
of
you
fictions.
are a.
I'm also a history boy.
We're still doing that.
Yes. And thank you so much. Happy holidays to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the last episode of the year, Jerry.
It is the last episode of the year. And I am Jerry Nash, as always, a history boy. Thank you so much for listening, as always. Don't forget to follow us on the Twitter and on the Instagram and on the Facebook. You can become a Patreon pal with us, and you can get on our Discord for as little as $1 a month. Your money goes towards that. It really does. That's where we're taking all of that money.
I just
and
don't
we're
want
putting
to
it
get
directly
back
into that.
into organized crime. So
Yeah.
if you could just get on our Patreon, then I won't have to break people's legs. You don't pay their bit.
Chris doesn't have to
money.
racketeer nearly as much.
Yeah,
If,
he
if
doesn't
we
have to-
more Patreon pages.
I don't like it.
He doesn't have to racketeer night crawlers
Yeah.
anymore. He doesn't have to sell worms at gas stations anymore.
No,
That's
for
what I've been doing.
inflated prices.
Yeah, and he doesn't pay any taxes, and that's what makes it crime.
And
Right.
I'm like, how are the worms, Michael?
and for all of our listeners,
How the worm turns.
take heart in knowing that come January we will be back to our bi-weekly schedule,
Yes, indeed.
giving you 2 episodes a month. No more of this 1 episode holiday bullshit.
Bi-weekly. So
Or-
sometimes you might see 3 in a
Yeah.
long month.
yeah.
In a long
And
month.
long-ass
So
months.
I think January might be 1, March might
Mm-hmm.
be 1, but February might be a little less. But you guys are going to be getting back to the regular schedule with us, and it's going to be so much fun. We have so many more stories to tell you guys, and we can't wait.
So we do have more Patreon pals here, and I want to mention their names because they're awesome. I love them so much. To infinity and beyond, as
Ah.
Buzz Lightyear.
Buzz Lightman
Buzz Lightman.
from the Disney film.
Burst
Yeah.
Lightman.
From Toy Tale.
Yes.
The first one I want to mention is Chuck.
Chuck.
Chuck, 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 Chuck. He's gonna come.
He likes to fuck. Or she.
Or she, yeah.
It's 2020, man.
And I also want to mention Nod.
No.
Thank you so much,
Nod.
all of you.
I
You
love
mean
eggnog.
so much to us. Honestly, that you're willing to give us money to produce this show. It
Yep.
really does mean a lot to me. I put a lot of work in, and boy, it's so gratifying to know that people are out there that are willing to, toss us even $1 a month is great.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly,
Or just
it's
listen
really
to the
great.
podcast.
Yeah, and that are willing to tell their friends, because I mean, hanging out with your group of friends, who wants to talk about shit that only one of you knows about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You want all your friends to listen so you can chat
Did
about
you listen to the new History Boys? And they'll be like, hell yeah, it was terrible. Let's talk about it. But those numbers are there.
But you joke about it. You can
Yeah.
joke about it. You can make... I don't know. Anyway,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Happy
Happy
New Year.
Holidays, Happy Hanukkah,
Happy Hanukkah. Happy
Happy
holidays.
Kwanzaa.
Happy Gilmore.
girls.
Gilmore Girls.
Happy
Happy Sol Invictus. Happy...
Saturnalia.
One
Happy
Tree,
Saturnalia.
One Tree Hill.
Happy
The OC.
Smallville. Give them the time of
Smallville.
year.
Yeah.
Happy...
Happy days.
Happy days. Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday.
Hey,
Happy days.
I Love Lucy.
Yes.
Friends.
Honeymooners.
Honeymooners.
I'll be there for
Seinfeld,
you.
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah.
Great.
Frankly.
I mean,
Cheers. Because
Cheers.
sometimes you want to go where
Everybody
everybody knows your
your
name.
And we will know your name if you are on our Patreon.
And
will
we
say
will
your
read
name.
it.
Yep.
Wings.
Zach, do the thing.
Yeah.
Zach.
Love you. Bye.
We'll see you next time. Or I guess we won't, whatever. Whatever.
Bye.